Hey everyone, this is Josh from before. I'm here with the Darkfather wave from McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse. I got this pile of pieces and parts that I'm going to use to assemble the Darkfather Build-A-Figure, and I am anticipating this to be an easier assembly than the Bane Build-A-Figure, but we will find out in just a few moments. I do have a hair dryer standing by and warm water just in case we have any issues, but I'm going to put them together right here on camera, so we'll see what this takes. Let's find out. So instead of those big giant plugs that we had to put the legs on Bane, these just slide into the pre-assembled full torso here with the leg pegs pointing down. Those are just going to slide right in, and I think that's all there is to it. Yeah, that's... And once they're in there, they stay pretty well, so no trouble there. Let's go 2 for 2. Yep, that's just in there and ready to go. Well, that was easy. All right. I'm digging this guy already. Arms, that's probably going to be an easy one too. I kind of try to, when I put these in, I try to line it up with sort of the peg, the ball there on the barbell with the way that the arm is sort of reaching out, so I'm not putting any pressure on that. That took a little bit of pushing, but wasn't that hard. Yeah, took a little bit of pressure, but that was not too bad. All right, so this cape has, it looks like it's got sort of a plug there on the chest and one on the back as well, and these little sockets built into the cape. Bring that over the neck there. So one thing is just a little, his chest is kind of tight around this plug, so it takes a little, as you can see, I want to try to get that nestled down into that sort of empty space around the plug. So I don't think that's going anywhere, but I do think that might take a little bit of extra finesse and work to get that just really, really tightly in there, because you can see it just kind of wants to come up with that with the slightest amount of pressure. So we'll find out if that pops out later or anything. And then the head, the one on the back is pretty snug. So we'll see if anything happens there. The head is just going to go on like so. Come on. Yeah, and there he is. Well, that was much less of a debacle than Bane, I can tell you that. And this guy just feels really awesome. He's too tall for the frame here. So obviously he's not nearly as big as Bane. He's just a bit taller, you know, a head taller than everybody else. So you're not getting the just sheer impressive size of the Build-A-Figure this time around, but what he lacks in size, he just makes up for in just like really cool presence. There's something about this figure that is like, it's not show-offy, I feel like. It's kind of just a really well-executed sort of texture study. You know what I mean? It feels like what I would describe as like workmanlike, you know, in that it's not flashy or show-offy. It's just really well executed. This, you know, he's got this like leather texture of his cowl that goes into this rough leather texture on his cape. You know, he's got this fabric sort of texture on his chest and his legs, and again more leather on his boots. Really, really nice looking pouches and belt buckle, and like again leather looking gauntlets with all these spikes popping out, and just the dark side texture of his skin. It just feels classy is how I describe it. Just with all these really wonderful textures, paired with the classic sort of 70s Superman colors of this costume, it just feels classy. I don't know how else to really describe it. Really amazing head sculpt. And this head sculpt is something I describe as having emotional articulation. And what I mean by that is, you depending on how you sort of orient his head, he can look really menacing, or he can look really soulful. He's got this expression that I can read into as almost being like, feels sad or lonely, kind of, which is just, again, I come back to the word classy, just because it just, it's not necessarily like the guy that, is going to just like kick your ass and he's in an action pose all the time. Like, he really feels like he's just got this weight of responsibility or whatever sort of complex emotions you want to read into that. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, but that's what it kind of gives me. Great range on you see, this is starting to pop out again. That's going to take a little bit of extra love, I think, to get that really working. He does have single elbows, but I like when they do these single elbows that have the swivel there. And considering his gauntlets and his beefy biceps, I don't know that a double elbow would have done much. It really just would have made the sculpt look more compromised. So I'm all right with that. He's got kind of an unusual shape to his ab cut here, where this bat logo comes down a little bit, and that's soft. And whenever I see something like this, because it just feels like a weird, they just had this little bat tail kind of coming down. This feels like it might be kind of R&D for future releases. Like, they're just kind of, you can always watch McFarlane kind of experiment with new techniques and new approaches to kind of how they do make some of these articulation or material choices. And a lot of times you can follow that little experiment down the road, and you see them implement it in a more complex way. And so this kind of, to me, feels like them just experimenting with having this soft material hanging over articulation cuts. But it's a real smooth ab, not a ton of crunch, but this guy's not going to be in a Spider-Man pose. The waist is a bit tight, but it's there. Definitely there. And it's got a little bit of rock on just the waist part, but not a ton. He's not going to be Spider-Man. The hip articulation's really good for an oversized guy, and he's got this swivel here. See, everybody's crying, Todd, you got to put thigh cuts in. No, don't put thigh cuts in. Just make this work right. That's fantastic. Love that. Lifts his leg. He's still got swivel rotation right there. Don't put a thigh cut there. Double knees. Again, I don't think you want this guy crouched over or in too extreme of a pose. You want his big looming presence to really be standing out. And these ball joints on the ankles, that I'm gonna say, I think the biggest gripe I've got is that they put ball joints on the elbows and the wrist. It would have been nicer to have the articulation sculpted in to the wrists and the ankles the way they did on Bane, the way they did on Devastator. That's just the one thing that kind of takes that sculpt away from being a perfect 10, I think. Man, this guy's just really fun. I love the hands. Again, that is another thing I consider a part of that emotional range that I was talking about. He just feels like, yeah, he could be blocking a punch with this hand, or he could be, grabbing somebody by the throat, but I see him more as hands where he's giving some sort of Shakespearean, soliloquy about what a complex and tragic figure he is. Even though he's evil, dark side, he also has emotions. Here he is again next to everybody, so you can just see kind of his size. I've seen some complaints about his scale because in the comics he's not an oversized character. Doesn't really bother me. This guy was literally in one issue of one comic. I don't care about that accuracy. I'd rather a Build-A-Fig be oversized and something bigger than what you'd normally get. So I'm totally all right with that. But let me get the other Build-A-Figs out and we'll see how he stacks up to them. Here he is with the other Build-A-Figures, Merciless and Bane. You see he just maybe a little bit shorter than Bane and pretty much the same size as Merciless. I'm kind of tempted to call this maybe my favorite Build-A-Fig that they've done. Because again, I keep coming back to that word classy. This is the kind of thing where we all have action figures and we all love what we love and whatnot. But this is the kind of thing I think that somebody sees this, like an average Joe, you have this at work or, in your display at home, and an average Joe sees this and is like, whoa, this isn't just like a toy. You have good taste. This is like something else. That's kind of the feeling that I get from sort of just the quality and the look of how these things come across. So if you're hunting this death metal wave down, you have this guy to look forward at the end of it once you assemble all the pieces. Again, compare that to Marvel Legends, where you got to buy 6 figures. Todd's only making you buy 4, and the payoff is well worth it, I think. I think this is, it's an extra $5 for those Build-A-Figure for the Build-A-Figure line, and so an extra $20 at the end of it, you end up with this. It's a pretty good payoff for me. The value is very, very high, I think. But that's just my opinion. I want to know where you guys come down on this. Let me know if you dig this sculpt, if you dig this, just character. I know he's not like again, he was in one issue of one comic. It's not a well-known fan favorite, I don't think, but it is kind of an interesting choice, and just the execution, he just looks really sharp. So you let me know what you think about this one, guys. I'm having fun with him. I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.